Hey guys, today I'll show you a psychological horror thriller film, A Cure for Wellness. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. One evening in the office, a man is working overtime, and he notices a letter addressed to someone from an institute in the Swiss Alps. The man tries to open the letter to read its content. However, he stops when his computer reminds him of work. As he continues his work, he suddenly feels heartburn. He decides to take a break to relieve his heartburn. After that, he experiences a heart attack and collapses on the floor. The following day, we see a train in transit in the Swiss Alps. A man named Lockhart is working on his computer managing business deals. Lockhart argues with his co-worker on the phone but manages to get his support. After ending the call, Lockhart takes a break from his work and reads the letter from earlier. The letter then starts its monologue about the meaning of self-awareness, about the world and oneself. It also mentions the board members of the company where he works at. The letter is telling them that its author is on a spiritual journey and doesn't want to be contacted. The author named Pembroke wants answers on his journey about the sickness of human existence. Lockhart reads the letter with the other mentioned board members, and they all agree Pembroke has gone insane. The letter also reveals details regarding the growth of the company, but it will require Pembroke's signature. This leads to Lockhart being tasked to find Pembroke. He arrives at his destination, and he proceeds to travel in a cab. He travels the long roads of the Swiss mountains while dealing with work. The driver suddenly interrupts Lockhart and asks if he's here for the cure. Lockhart denies it and states he is just visiting. The driver states that people who visit usually stay once they get the treatment. During their conversation, Lockhart's computer loses power, so he focuses on talking with the driver. Lockhart then gets a vision of the past about his mother. He and his mother talk about his workaholic nature, like his late father. His mother thinks that he should rest, but he makes an excuse. Suddenly, his mother thinks that he will not come back to visit her because of his workaholic nature. He tries to change the topic on his mother's art craft. The mother explains that a ballerina music box symbolizes dreaming. She states that the ballerina is not aware that it's in a dream, accepting its dream as reality. As Lockhart looks at his mother's ballerina music box, his vision gets interrupted when a villager hits the car. The driver states that the incident only happened because the place where Lockhart is headed has a bad history with the villagers. Lockhart arrives at his destination, a castle. The driver tells him that in the past, the castle was owned by a baron, and the baron believed in keeping the purity of his lineage. Because of that, the baron chose his sister to carry his child. The villagers and the church didn't like this and lynched the couple on their wedding night. The villagers also burned them along with the castle to the ground. Lockhart is shocked, but the driver assures him that it's all in the past. As they enter the courtyard of the castle, old people are seen enjoying a life of retirement. Lockhart arrives at the castle's main building and heads in to find Pembroke. Lockhart tries to visit Pembroke, but the nurse denies him the visit. He tries to update his co-workers, but the elderly people tell him that there is no cell service. Lockhart still tries to look for a signal and stumbles upon a vent where he hears weird sounds. One of the old people interrupts him from investigating. He and the head doctor then meet, and the doctor tours him about the institute's cure using the special water in the aquifer. Lockhart interrupts him and negotiates with the doctor about bringing Pembroke with him for a few days to sign a business deal. However, the doctor refuses. Lockhart then makes a deal to let Pembroke decide whether he will stay. The doctor agrees and sets a schedule for Lockhart to meet Pembroke. Lockhart leaves to book a hotel room. Meanwhile, as Lockhart leaves, a figure looks over Lockhart's cab. Lockhart exits the courtyard and notices a girl singing. On their way to a hotel, their journey is ruined when a deer crashes into his cab. They get into a car accident, and Lockhart sees visions of his mother's death. He then wakes up 3 days later in the institute. Lockhart is also greeted by the director of the institute. He apologizes to Lockhart for the accident and promises to treat him. The director encourages him to try their therapies while he recovers. Lockhart surveys the surroundings and notices the vent he saw before getting sealed. He also notices a small organism inside the water he drinks, but dismisses it. Lockhart tours himself around the center. He tries to find Pembroke, but encounters a nurse questioning him. Lockhart fakes his identity as Pembroke, leading him to Pembroke. As he arrives at the steam bath section of the center, he enters a sauna room to find Pembroke. He eventually finds Pembroke and greets him. Lockhart tries to convince Pembroke to come with him, but Pembroke refuses. Pembroke then proceeds with his therapy. Pembroke remembers Lockhart's introduction then asks Lockhart if he knows Henry, and Lockhart confirms that Henry is his father. Pembroke offers his condolences to Henry's death, and Lockhart then sees a vision of his father on a bridge committing suicide. Pembroke reveals that his company destroyed his father, and he is sorry for it. After Pembroke's therapy, Lockhart makes Pembroke change his mind, and they prepare to leave. The following day, Lockhart is on his way to meet with Pembroke. Then an elderly woman he met at his first visit greets him with history about the Baron and the former church building where the vent was. Lockhart already knows this, and instead gives her a piece of new history about the incestual act of the Baron. This intrigues her, making her investigate more about the Baron. They then meet with two other elderly friends of the woman. They prepare to go to their scheduled therapy, and he tells them that he will be leaving with Pembroke. They then give him odd reactions which confuse him. He gets sidetracked when heading to Pembroke, as he hears the girl from before singing again. The girl has a small conversation with him, and they end their talk when Lockhart arrives at Pembroke's room. However, he only sees the staff cleaning the room. He asks where Pembroke is, but the nurse who he fooled before acts like he is Pembroke. Lockhart leaves and confronts the director and the head doctor at the cafeteria to ask where Pembroke is. Suddenly, he collapses during the confrontation, and after that, he wakes up in a medical bed. The director greets him while nursing him back to health after his collapse. The director informs Lockhart of the need to drink the special water provided by the Institute to avoid collapsing. The director then proceeds to give a treatment schedule for Lockhart. Lockhart accepts, and the director sets a schedule with the nurse. Lockhart then looks for files regarding Pembroke to learn about his disappearance, while the director is distracted. Lockhart barely manages to hide Pembroke's files, as the director is done setting the schedule. Lockhart then asks the director why he has the locket of the Baron, and the director tells him that they found it during the reconstruction. The nurse then arrives to start Lockhart's treatment, and the director asks for a urine sample from him before proceeding. After Lockhart gives his urine sample, he notices the elderly woman's urine sample, as well as small organisms floating. At the treatment chamber, Lockhart starts being submerged in water as he meditates. His meditation is interrupted when eels start swimming around him. He tries to call for help, but the staff is distracted. He then drowns and sees the vision of his father committing suicide. Fortunately, he is saved from drowning by the staff, but the staff blames the accident on the machine malfunctioning. After the incident, he looks into the files he got about Pembroke and sees that Pembroke has X-rays with broken teeth. Suddenly, his investigation is interrupted by noises in the bathroom. He feels like something is inside the toilets, but his attention is shifted outside when he sees a bald staff member, short-named Baldy, bring a bag inside the church. The following day, he meets with the elderly trio and talks with the woman. Lockhart asks her about the inside of the former church. The woman replies that she doesn't know and changes the topic. The woman and Lockhart then have a conversation on the history of the Baron. The woman reveals that not only did the Baron commit incest, but he also committed brutal experiments on the villagers for a cure for his sister's sickness. This caused the villagers' hatred towards the Baron. The woman is about to reveal the sickness of the sister, but she is interrupted by a staff member. Fortunately, before she leaves, she manages to warn Lockhart that there is something wrong with the Institute. Lockhart then tries to head inside the church. However, he is blocked from entering by Baldy. He then catches a glimpse of the girl from earlier and heads over to her. He tries to borrow her bike to head into town. Lockhart trades his mother's ballerina for it, and the girl accepts the trade. They then head into town, and Lockhart tries to contact his superiors. As they both head inside a bar, Lockhart meets the cab driver. They have a short talk about the accident, but are cut short when an officer interrogates Lockhart. Lockhart asks the officer if there are any doctors in town. The barkeep points Lockhart to a doctor, and Lockhart heads to him. Lockhart then meets with the doctor, and he shows him Pembroke's medical file. The doctor reveals to him that the broken teeth are caused by a condition called chronic dehydration. Lockhart suspects that this is related to the Baron's history of experimenting on humans and thinks that the Institute is doing the same. However, he cannot find a reason why and heads back to inform his superiors. At the bar, the girl is enjoying, but the boy she is dancing with informs his boss about Lockhart. They then have a brawl, which is stopped when the director arrives. They all return to the castle, and the director reprimands the girl because of her reckless behavior. It is revealed that the director is taking care of the girl. Right then, the girl experiences pain in her stomach, which the director tries to diagnose, but the girl rejects him. Meanwhile, Lockhart has a nightmare where the girl is seen in a tub filled with eels. He then notices Baldy bringing another bag inside the church. Suddenly, he feels a weird sensation in his mouth and his teeth start getting loose. He is alarmed as he easily pulls it out, so he informs the nurse. The nurse gets medication for him while he looks over the clipboard of the nurse mentioning the patient's location. He finds where Pembroke is located and sneaks over there. Lockhart discovers that the patients that went missing are being experimented on in a secret facility in the center. He then finds the woman, and she informs him about her realization about the Baron. She reveals that the sickness of the Baron's sister was infertility, and the Baron used the villagers to make her conceive. Because of this, the villagers lynched the couple and burned them alive with the castle. However, the villagers also cut off the fetus from the Baron's sister and threw her in the water supply of the institute. After her revelation, Lockhart is shocked when something inside the woman moves. This alerts the staff, and a chase occurs. Lockhart manages to escape from them for a while, but is again surprised to see Pembroke and other patients stuck inside vats. After discovering this, he attempts to escape to report this to the authorities. However, he is caught and tortured by the director. Lockhart manages to escape when the cab driver and a new patient arrive for treatment. He enters the cab and escapes into town. He reports the evils of the director's institute at the castle to the officer from before. The officer at first doesn't believe his smelly bullshit, but eventually accepts his report and takes action. Unfortunately, Lockhart realizes that the officer is on the director's side, and they capture Lockhart again. They make Lockhart think he is crazy by contradicting everything he knows, as if he has woken up from a dream. Lockhart then adapts to the lifestyle in the center, thinking about what is real and what is fake. After thinking for a while, he tries to solve the mystery about the director. He realizes that he can walk, and the cast fooled him into thinking his leg is broken. He starts investigating the inside of the church first, and discovers that it is a research facility for eels. He also learns it is a disposal site for corpses, and sees the elderly woman's corpse in one of the body bags. Baldy then disposes of one of the corpses. Then eels feast on the corpses when thrown into the pool. Meanwhile, the girl panics as she menstruates, and heads to the director for help. At the same time, Lockhart gets into a brawl with Baldy and barely wins. After looking around more, Lockhart realizes that the girl is related to the Baron's sister and tries to help her by escaping the institute. He rushes to the girl and meets her, but she is scared and punches him. The girl then asks the director about her menstruation, which makes him show hints of excitement. Lockhart heads inside to take her away and causes a scene. He tries to reveal the director's crimes, but the people are confused. Lockhart proceeds to keep on proving the director's evil. However, when Lockhart tells them that they're not sick, the people suddenly mob him as if they're zombies, and he gets captured again. He wakes up in a tube and sees Pembroke beside him. Pembroke is narcotized, and Lockhart can't talk with him properly. Suddenly, the director arrives and greets Lockhart. The director reveals to Lockhart that he is using the patients as ingredients to concoct an immortality medicine, using the patients as filters when eels are injected into them. The eels secrete a fluid that gets filtered in the human body, which then secretes the distilled life essence medicine. The side effect, however, is the chronic dehydration and the eels' eggs in their bodies. As the director explains this, he turns Lockhart into one of the ingredients for the medicine, while brainwashing him in the process. The following day, the girl and the director talk about a celebration of the girl's menstruation, saying that she is ready. The girl meets with Lockhart to give him the ballerina, and this frees Lockhart from the brainwash. In the evening, the director conducts a cult-like wedding with the girl along with a grand ball. Meanwhile, Lockhart thinks about the elderly woman's history lessons and the information about the elixir of youth. He then realizes that the director is the Baron, and the girl is exactly his daughter. And also, the director wants to keep his lineage pure. After the ball, the director reveals himself to be her father. Lockhart confronts the director, giving the girl a chance to escape. Lockhart's theory about the Baron is proven true, as the director shows a mask hiding a burned face. Their following fast and furious fight causes a big fire that also spreads across the institute. In the end, the director is killed when his daughter joins the fight. After the director dies, they escape the institute and see the patients and staff go insane. They continue their escape and crash into a cab. Inside the cab, Lockhart tells his employer that Pembroke died. His employers then decide to bring him instead to take the fall for the company. However, Lockhart rides off with the girl while smiling, glad that they escaped from the hell-like institute. This is Daniel's CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.